All right, as promised, a discussion about faith. I think the kind of faith that I would endorse, and feel comfortable endorsing, is going to be, or is going to require a very abstract conversation. These kinds of conversations, of course, are the lifeblood of any philosophy geek like myself, but these can cause visceral reactions to some of you pragmatists, so viewer discretion is advised. You know, when I was looking to upload Coughlin's video, I found another video of his on defending faith. Good stuff. I'll put a link to it for you. I want to kind of pick up where he left off and take it one more step into the abstract. Coughlan supposed that in order to further human knowledge, we have to embark in some kind of faith. We have to make actions that are not directly informed by empirical evidence. He used the example of climbing to the top of a mountain. We can expand that and say that it's running a 4-minute mile for the first time, or shooting someone off into space the first time. In fact, the space example is useful because we can sort of easily use it as a model for a kind of limitation of human knowledge. That is to say, the first time we shot anything off into space, we could not be certain exactly what the environment of space would do to any of our satellites or any of our astronauts. We could say we had evidence to suppose what would happen to the satellite or the shuttle between the ground and that atmosphere. But beyond that atmosphere, a great amount of uncertainty was inevitable. So taken one step farther into the abstract, we can suppose that the human intellect itself is finite, that it has itself an atmosphere, an ozone layer, if you will. That is to suppose that it is naive to think that things that are inconceivable necessarily do not exist. I think even Nietzsche has a quote like that. But anyway, if you agree that it's naive to suppose that man's intellect is all-encompassing of all that could ever possibly exist, then I think you just took the red pill. Because I would suppose that faith, in its most abstract sense, is an openness to experience that which is irrevocably beyond human intellect, the capacity for human understanding. Perhaps it's no coincidence that mystical traditions throughout history have a sort of silence when it comes to speaking of the beyond. It's easy to get frustrated with it, and perhaps we're justified in being so when, we pose a question to a monk or a guru and they respond with mere silence. I would suppose most of these kinds of responses are just dodging the question. But then again, perhaps like with myth, there is a kernel of truth to this. That is to say that perhaps there is something to experience out there, but because of its nature, it's incomprehensible. But this is faith in a very particular way. It's important to realize, because it's not a faith that we could use as the basis of a dogma or theory from which that we could inform our own actions. So, for example, faith in a book such that we can inform actions here in the real world, or faith in a guru, or faith in a dream, or faith in a whatever, premonition. Instead, the kind of faith I'm talking about is an action itself, a means and an ends. It is, like meditative tradition suggests, a state of open, untheorizing, unexpecting awareness. But I suppose if you were to even accept all of this, even if you were to accept the idea that there could exist things that go beyond human intellect, that exist of a sophistication that our meager attempts could not fathom. And even if you were to suppose we could come into some kind of direct experience of these phenomena, why would we, if we know we could never understand it, if we know we could never put it to any use? I guess you're right. There's very little pragmatic about it. And if you can see yourself as a pragmatist, I say that that's fine. There's probably nothing here for you. But to be honest, I've never met a true pragmatist. I've never met someone who feels their life would be satisfied living in a vat, with tubes coming out of every orifice of their body, in a comatose sleep where they can just live out their life in the most pragmatic kind of way. If that's all life is to you, then I suppose there really isn't anything here for us to discuss. But if that's not satisfying, then perhaps you know what I'm talking about. Importantly, I'm not talking about faith in something that is in competition with reason. I'm saying that reason is within the boundaries of human intellect, and that faith is the openness to experience that which exists beyond. And again, if you're the type that finds no pragmatic use in that sort of thing, then there is nothing for you here. And let me know if I can help with those tubes.